Today's video is going to be about Sandisk memory card and the reason why it gets recognized as 30.6 megabytes instead of the actual size. So the card is not overheating, the card is not physically damaged, the casing is intact, but when you plug it in, it gets recognized as 30.6 megabytes instead of 32 or 64 or 128 gigs. I got into a quick search on Google and it showed that this is actually a fairly frequently asked question along some of the Sandisk forums, and people are looking for a solution. People are trying to genuinely find out how can this be resolved, because one day it was working fine and now it doesn't work at all. 30 megabytes cannot hold any valid information, right? So especially if you had a 32 gigabyte card that was completely filled with the data. Guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel if you're new here. If you like data recovery, if you're into this type of thing, that this is what this channel is about. Now, if you stumbled on this video trying to find a solution for your device, link in the description will take you to our website where you can request our service and we'll get it done for you.
First, before anything goes down, we can plug this in and see what this card gives us in direct access mode. We're going to use PC3000 for the case anyway, so why not just use PC3000 in combination with these card adapter. Card adapter is something that allows us to access the card in different types of modes. It supports SD protocol, it supports MMC protocol, and it also supports ISP, which we can try and exploit if we need to. So all we need to do is just plug in the card like this. Now if this fails, I will just simply delete the task because there's no point of having it on the drive, but we'll see what this gives us. So we manually input 32 gigs because that's the boundaries of the card that we're working with, and by default let's go into card control and parameters. Let's see. So we have 4 bus lanes. We're going to switch that to 1 just to ease the card up and fire it up. So by default it's going to power it on into SD protocol, and what we can see here, it gets recognized, but it gives us 32 megabyte capacity. The way I know this is because LBA maximum set to 62,688. DeepSpar will give us the actual size in megabytes, and we'll be able to see that that's what we're dealing with. Alright, my magic data recovery box is ready. I plug this card into an adapter, slide that adapter in here. So in the control panel, what we've got is that it's set by default to a hard drive. Let's switch it over, power on, wait a bit, and we've got 30 megabytes, well 32 megabytes capacity, round up. That tells me that the controller is visible. The controller is visible on the card, but the card itself is not seeing the NAND. The NAND is not getting initialized, the NAND is not accessible to the controller. But if we go in on Google and type in Sandisk SD card 30.6 megabytes, you guys can see that this is pretty common, that this happens quite often. And there's gonna be these videos, these make-believe videos on YouTube that will tell you how to change size of the card. All of this is bogus. I don't want to plug this card into a USB port and show you in the device manager how it shows up, but I can tell you for sure that plugging it in right now will give us 30 megabytes, 30.6 megabytes capacity, and we will not be able to expand that size to anything, no matter what videos like this may say. So if you lost your data and your card shows up as 30.6 megabytes total size for Sandisk SD or microSD card, simply know that your card is fine. Your card most likely is recoverable, but it's not going to be recoverable without specialized tools. Some of these cards can be full size, some of these cards can be half size. Full size would be probably down to like this line here. Half size would be down to here. I don't know which one it is inside. Most of the time for Sandisk we see half size. Alright, so inside we have this chip, and we're going to take this chip out of there. First thing we need to do, and I'm pretty sure that we're not going to find any surprises just because I did not take this step at the beginning, but I should definitely talk about this step. It's an important step. 2 taller pins on your device like this will be ground and power. Okay, and if you put your multimeter in a test mode, if they're in short, then they will produce this noise, and that's what we don't want to hear. So if we set them up here, red on the ground and black on the red on the pad that's to the left and black on the pad that's to the right, it's gonna give a temporary beep but not a constant. Alright, that's good. That means we don't have a short on main VCC, and this is good news, because if there was, I think we would just be done with it. In some cases this still could be resolved, just you would need to detect where the short can be eliminated, and that can be a very challenging thing. Do you see these round pads here? Okay, these are technological pads for specific signals. If you look at the adapter has bunch of pads here, and they all have different things written next to them. IO1, IO3, IO5, and so on. Ground, C1, C3, CLE, WE, RBB, VSP. All of these things, they relate, well, they're not relate, they basically are meant for signals that are needed for communication through NAND protocol. If you do not have all of these connections established, you're simply not going to get access to the NAND protocol. You will not be able to read the data out of the memory chip in the proper way, or in any way at all. Put our device right there, and we're ready to start. Let's go back into a microscope view, applying flux to everything we're gonna need to use. This card is an 8-bit bus, and so there are going to be only 8 I/O signals that we need to put up. The wire that I use to wire this up, it's a 46 gauge, and it is this is an isolated enameled wire. So if the wire crosses, it does not create a short, and there is no contact being made. To expose that wire and make it bare, you have to burn the tip a little bit like this, and then adding it to the pad. So this pad here, it's a IO7 pad. So what we do is we find a corresponding signal on the adapter and link it together like this. Now we just pull on the wire and it's free. Then we're gonna go to IO5, because the way that adapter is designed, all of the odd numbers are on one side, even numbers on the other side. So this is gonna be the signal 5, and we go to the pad number 5. Signal 3, and we go to the pad number 3. Signal 1, and obviously the corresponding signal 1 for this pad. Then we flip the board upside left to right and do the same for the remaining bus signals. Signal 0, Signal 2, in between, cleaning the tip is also very important, because the flux and enamel and solder mix will darken the tip. It will lose its temperature properties, so keep that clean. Alright, so we're done with the bus signals. Then let's move on to something else more important. This is a VCC. That's what we end up with. Looks good to me. Let's just do a quick test. So I'm gonna set my I put it in a diode test mode, and then I'm gonna run red wire on the ground and test all of these signals. What I want to hear is a single short beep. I think, oh yeah, I see what I did wrong. In this part right here, I accidentally put the ground pad. Instead. Okay, so we should have that eliminated. That's why it's very important to run these tests before you start the device. Let's get back to it. So there it is, ground, and we set it. This was buzzing before, not anymore. That's it, we have it all. First we're gonna connect the reader to this adapter, and that adapter goes into a multi-board. So we start a new task for NAND protocol read. This time we're not gonna select SD card adapter. What we're gonna do, so we're going to take the SD card adapter out and put the NAND adapter back in, and in the software we'll just use PC3000 flash. And we're going to read the ID on the chip. We can see the proper ID come up. We go into read chip direct mode. Page designer, just to make sure we're not experiencing any delays or shifts in the data. Everything looks good to me right here because we have our service area right there at the beginning, and we reach the end. So now clear it, read chip, only this time read it into a dump file. That's going to take a while, but we have time. Alright, so we finished reading. What do we need to do next is find ECC for it. ECC auto detection helps us with that procedure. Usually for Sandisk device, the ECC is going to be determined fairly quickly, before 10%. There we go, we already found it. So our ranges are 2208, and we have 8 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're going to run error correction now. Some of these pages, as you can see, end up being red, some of them end up being green, but the main job here is to get as much green pages as possible. So we're going to run this initial error correction phase on the device right now. Once it's done, we will start building the mix. If the quality of the data needs to be improved, that will be done later. Error correction is done. Let's have a look at our map. Looks pretty good from the first glimpse, and we'll build a map of invalid sectors to see how much improvement can we add. 169 megabytes, and the number of chains is 1608 chains. Not a big number. Again, there might be some bit errors here and there, but we'll deal with that later. So first things first, when we're dealing with a Sandisk device, we need to determine what type of XOR is used, and that is done through XOR analysis. Luckily for us, there was only 3 options. Because there are not a lot of competition in here, we're just gonna choose whichever we like and see how well it fits, and if it doesn't work, we can always go back and try a different one. Because there's only 3 of them and not like 15, it's not that big of a deal. Probable one automatically pulls up breakout for pages as well, so it adds page transformation element. So let's see if we have interleave or if we need to break this into dumps, because Sandisk memory cards can have either or. Let's see, we're gonna split it by the block and compare the elements for the content. So these things, they look fairly equal. You can see that the service areas of them are very much similar, So we're gonna assume that they do have something that we can join by pages. Let's go back, tools, preparation, join by pages, and interleave this. Let's have a look at the service information. Things are looking, yeah, they look pretty sequential. Alright, so now we're gonna split it into dumps, and there's gonna be 4 of them. That's just a basic component in the data conversion elements for the Sandisk cards. And again, let's have a look at whether or not they have interleave, because if they don't, then we can just erase that element and try other common options that these controllers usually would normally have. Comparison, we can see that they are very much alike, and that gives me an information that they need to be joined by pages again. So joining by pages through here gives us 2 more elements. Let's see if they're laced, and looks like they are. So at this point we're pretty much on the right track, because if we weren't, this would just not fall into place like it does. So this was pretty common card that could be solved fairly easily. Join this by pages, and since we are left with a single element at the very end, let's see if our mix makes sense or not. How can we do that? We're going to run raw recovery on it, and we're going to look for common file types. My preferred files, obviously, they're going to be pictures, because they're easy to test. You just open them up and see if they work or not. So far JPEGs are not looking good, and that could be due to 2 things. We could have incorrect XOR, or these pictures could be simply erased, something that was on the card before and then got overwritten, and therefore the content is only partial. We need to confirm the correctness of the mix. We need to prove it only once on a big enough file. Like, these files are fairly big, and we can see right here that the markers for them come up green, right? So what does that tell me? If they open up and if they work, that means that our card is assembled in the right way. The file is functional. Let's see what we got in raw. So if we open up a raw file, will we see what we're looking for? So this raw file is not coming out, right? It's got a very small portion of it showing, but the mix, despite of that, is correct, because even for that JPEG to open up, there is no way with all of the interleave elements that we included into this mix, anything would have worked, because the portions of mixing are on such a small level that if you get the parameters wrong, nothing will line up. Nothing will line up at all. So even if we remove one element out of there in our sequence, everything just gonna collapse and 0 files will work. So at this point, the reason why these images may not function could be explained by either number one is that the image is old and it had been deleted, so there is only a fraction of it left. Also, the image could be partially corrupted by bit errors, or it could be incorrect mix. So we've invalidated the fact that this is an incorrect mix, because this CR2 image right here is 66 megabytes in size, and it opens up perfectly fine. If we got an image that big working, that means our mix is good. So at this point, I'm just gonna continue with raw recovery, and when the recovery through raw means is done, we can start unloading the images, because the card only has photography that we need to recover. And if it's just photography that we need to recover, and you guys can see now primarily JPEGs are coming out green. So these are probably the ones that were more recent. If we just need to get images, we don't really need the structure, because this is shot by camera, right? So the structure is going to be basic to any camera. It's going to be all in the DCIM folder, and the file names, nobody really cares what the file names are. Camera assigns them automatically. Nobody specifically names any files on a memory card inside of the camera in a specific way. So getting this extracted just by file type is perfectly fine. If we were dealing with a flash drive that has massive directory, massive file structures, subfolders, and so on, then yeah, of course we need to concentrate a bit more on obtaining the file system and get it as clean as we can. But for memory cards, this will do just fine. So I'm just going to wait until this raw recovery is finished and compile a first draft for the client to preview. For that, I use a tool called Irfan View Thumbnails, which generates a great thumbnail spreadsheet that we can send for inspection, and client lets us know whether the pictures that we got is exactly what they're looking for, or if we need to do more work. For now, that's it. If the first draft comes out not good enough, there's 160 megabytes plus of bit sectors that we need, of bit errors that we still need to work on and possibly improve. So that will give us something to work on tonight. But overall, guys, I think this case is solved. The outcome is gonna be most likely acceptable, even in as is shape right now. So yeah, you just saw how to resolve a problem where your SD card or your micro SD card made by Sandisk is getting recognized as 30.6 megabytes instead of an actual size. So if you need assistance with this, give us a shout. Link in the description. You can reach us through our website and request this service if you require it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next episode.